Welcome back to the channel. My name is Gordon Frayne, and today we are back with another Bitcoin analysis update. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below, hit that subscribe button as well, and if you want to get notified about similar videos, make sure to smash that bell notification icon, and don't forget to grab your free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin. It's going to be linked in the description below. It is my gift to you. Grab it while it's free, and let's get into the video. So it has been a very choppy couple of weeks for Bitcoin as we now see the price is back up above the $60,000 level here on August 10th, 2024. We did see a very big dip in the price as we jump over to the chart here in the aftermath of the whole debacle surrounding the Japanese yen carry trade unwind earlier last week. So we saw the price beginning to really dip here on Friday, Saturday, in the lead up to all of that kind of news breaking at the weekend, and then markets dropping, the stock market on Monday proceeding after all of this news of the Japanese yen carry trade unwind. And we saw a pretty aggressive drop in price for Bitcoin down to the $49,000 level before bouncing back up. And we've actually had a bit of a strong bounce in the past few days. We've seen a very kind of sharp V-shaped recovery here. Personally, I didn't think it was going to be quite as quick and sharp of a recovery, but Bitcoin acting as it does as a hedge against a lot of different opportunities in the traditional stock market has rebounded, and we are sitting just under that $61,000 level once again. So if we zoom out and just look at what's been going on for the past few months, we can really see that Bitcoin put in new all-time highs here at $73,000 in the lead up to the Bitcoin halving event. We didn't see the halving event take place until here on April 20th, 2024. And as you can see, we've had a pretty choppy few months in the immediate aftermath of the Bitcoin halving event. We did see a lot of price action to the upside. Again, zooming out even further, we saw the announcement and the beginning of the Bitcoin spot ETFs beginning to trade here on January 10th, 2024. And as you can see, in the immediate aftermath of those ETFs beginning to trade, we did see a drop in price for Bitcoin from about that $47,000 level going all the way down to the $39.5K level before having that pump all the way up to 73,000. And that time period really wasn't that much, going from 39K up to 73K in the space of about 50 days. So we had a 50-day run for that lead up to the $73,000 level. And then we've kind of been chopping between $50,000 and $70,000 really for the past couple of months in the immediate aftermath of the halving event. So jumping over to Bitcoin dominance, we can see that dominance has continued to rise as a result of, what's going on in the broader markets, but also, given the sharp drop in price for Bitcoin earlier last week, we did see dominance continue to compound to the upside. And we've had a very strong couple of weeks regarding Bitcoin dominance with these healthy green candles moving continuously to the upside. And again, if we zoom out, this is a weekly chart. Every candle represents 1 week of time. We can see just how strong Bitcoin's dominance has been over the course of the past 12 to 24 months. We've been on a very strong uptrend in terms of Bitcoin dominance continuing to move to the upside. Again, if we zoom out even further, what we saw in the 2021 cycle was very strong Bitcoin dominance leading up to what we typically call altcoin season, where we had a peak of Bitcoin dominance here around the 73% level at the end of December 2020 before Bitcoin dominance began to break down here throughout the course of Q1 and Q2 2021. This is when we saw altcoins really start to kick off. There was a lot of DeFi altcoins, Uniswap and Pancake, or the Cake token, along with a whole bunch of other altcoins that began to really take off here in the first couple of quarters of 2021. And as a result of that, we saw people rotating out of Bitcoin and moving into altcoins, capturing value as altcoins moved to the upside. And as this Bitcoin dominance continued to break down, continuing to break down until we saw a little bit of a jump here towards the end of the year, when Bitcoin did put in those all-time high prices at $69,000 at the 2021 peak. We did see, a bit of chop here during the entirety of 2022, Bitcoin dominance oscillating up and down. But really, since the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, Bitcoin dominance has been on this very, very healthy upwards trend. And I think we saw, a lot of altcoins just getting washed out of the market, and people understanding that, most of these altcoins are ultimately not carrying any real utility. And I think that possibly lends itself as to why Bitcoin dominance has been so strong over the past 12 to 24 months, because yes, there's been altcoins that have outperformed Bitcoin, but the vast majority are not going to capture maybe as much share as we did in the last cycle. So, we might be moving towards somewhat of an altcoin season by the time we get to Q4 of this year, or maybe Q1 of next year. We really didn't see altcoin season kick off here, and we didn't see a breakdown in Bitcoin dominance until Q1 of 2021. So we could be looking at a similar time frame period if we are taking into account kind of the macro 4-year cycle. So Bitcoin dominance, very, very strong and healthy, continuing to move to the upside with these healthy green candles. But again, looking at the cycle low multiple, this gives us the full picture of Bitcoin's price action over the course of the past few eras or cycles. And basically this graph represents the price action of Bitcoin in the lead up to and aftermath of every previous halving event. So day 0 here in the middle of the chart represents the halving date. And you can see that once we come through the halving date on all of the previous eras, we did see parabolic moves to the upside for Bitcoin's price action, putting in new all-time highs in the 12 to 18 month period after the halving event. So the blue line shows us the price action of Bitcoin in the aftermath of the 2012 halving, the orange line showing us the price action of Bitcoin in the aftermath of the 2016 halving, and the green line showing us the price action of Bitcoin after the 2020 halving. And this red line is mapping our current trajectory as we just moved through the most recent halving event here in April 2024. Zooming in, you can see that we are moving along this line here with Bitcoin's price action. And, it's been a little bit underwhelming maybe for the past month or two and with the most recent dip, but we are somewhat, where we should be, quote unquote, in terms of the overall macro cycle. The price action has been, a little bit choppy in this 90 to 100 day period in the immediate aftermath of the halving. And if we zoom out and look at the full picture here, it would be expected that we would continue to move to the upside as we go through the next 12 to 18 months. So again, previous price history is not indicative of future price performance. But if we zoom out and think about the effect that the halving event has on Bitcoin's token issuance and emissions schedule, we know that the reward that miners are earning now is only 3.125 Bitcoin per block versus 6.25 Bitcoin per block prior to April 2020, prior to April 20th, 2024 this year. That reward per block has been cut in half once again. And with increased demand coming in from ETF issuers, I think BlackRock are buying an average of something like 2,000 Bitcoin per day over the course of the ETF life cycle thus far. So we are seeing huge demand with the ETFs, and with the supply shock that the halving event has created, again, we would expect or at least anticipate some upwards price movement. over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, especially as we expect rate cuts coming from the FOMC meeting on September 18th, 2024. It's looking like we're going to be getting almost a definite rate cut by 25 basis points at least, with many people thinking we could be getting even a 50 basis point rate cut. That would mean that we would see more capital and liquidity looking for places to go to earn additional yield, and more capital flowing into risk on assets like Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. Jumping over to the Bitcoin power law, once again, we can just see here the price action of Bitcoin and how it does adhere to this power law throughout its price action and history thus far. We've done other videos about the power law on the channel. You can check those out. But basically what we're looking at here is the fact that Bitcoin is currently below the linear regression fit here, which is the green line on the chart here. And that basically means that it is underbought. And the idea with the power law here is that Bitcoin will always revert to the mean, which is this green line on the chart here. Again, it's interesting to note that as we were moving towards the 2020 halving event and in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 halving event, you can also see how Bitcoin went through this period where it was kind of continuously underbought before breaking through the linear regression fit line here in green and making those all-time high prices of 69,000 US dollars here in November 2021. And we obviously reverted to the mean, went down below again, touched the red line, which is acting as support here in the Bitcoin power law chart, before bouncing up again and getting pretty close to the linear regression fit as we hit the halving event here in April 2020. And we've kind of been going through this choppy consolidation for the past couple of months ever since. So again, if we extrapolate this out into the future, we can see that the fair value for Bitcoin by the end of 2025 is in the region of 144,000 US dollars, going by the linear regression fit. If we break through the linear regression fit and move to the upside, just like we saw in the previous two cycles, you could be looking at anything between 120 to 120,000 to 499,000, 500,000 on the very upper end of things. Whether we get ultimately that high or not remains to be seen, but a very interesting tool to think about the Bitcoin price extrapolated out over time. It's interesting to use the power law and think about where the fair value of Bitcoin lies at today's prices. The next model we'll look at is the stock to flow model. Once again, we are seeing the price action of Bitcoin continuing to move through this stock to flow model. The idea here being that the halving event, denoted by these dotted lines on the chart, causes this supply shock event, which means that the stock to flow of Bitcoin, the ratio increases in terms of stock to flow because we've got only half of the supply that we had in the previous 4-year cycle. So you can see that we went from these prices on the model of around $5,000 per Bitcoin immediately before the 2020 halving, and then obviously moving all the way up to those highs of 69,000, and following this brown line here on the chart, which is the Bitcoin stock to flow 365-day average. And what the stock to flow model basically is telling us as we move through the current cycle is, now that we've come through the 2024 halving, we could be expecting to see prices in the region of 440,000 if Bitcoin continues to follow the power law by sometime in the middle of 2025. So again, the colors on this chart represent how far we are away from the next halving date. So because we hit day 0 with the purple here, as we hit this dotted line with the April 2024 halving event, we've turned red again, which means we're 1,400 days away from the next halving in 2028. And the stock to flow model representing the supply shock with this line here and the price moving to the upside as a result of having basically half of the supply entering circulation every single day versus the previous 4 years, tells us that we will be moving to somewhere in the $440,000 range. So again, all models are wrong. Some models are useful. It's always just worth keeping an eye on what's going on. So far, you can argue that there was a bit of a better fit to the Bitcoin stock to flow model as we went through the kind of period from 2018 to 2022. We reverted away from the stock to flow line here before getting back up to it. So again, it remains to be seen if we'll get back up to these levels and follow the stock to flow model, but it would be a very exciting 2025 if we did. Again, the Bitcoin clock power law spiral shows us that the real action in terms of the bull market moving to the upside starts to happen for Bitcoin by the time we get to 9 o'clock on the actual Bitcoin clock here. So one full rotation of this clock represents Bitcoin's 4-year cycle. And again, what we typically see is by the time we get to 9 o'clock on the clock spiral here is the bull market beginning to really kick into effect and seeing parabolic moves to the upside for Bitcoin. So you can see that we're at about 7:30 p.m. moving towards 8 p.m. here on the clock. And then it's anticipated that we will hit the 9 o'clock mark somewhere around the very end of the year and the very beginning of January next year, which kind of signals the real kickoff of the bull market for Bitcoin. So again, another useful tool just to come in and check in where we are in terms of the macro cycle and get a snapshot of what's going on. Again, the Bitcoin rainbow chart is another very useful tool. You can see here that if we zoom in, Bitcoin did drop with the most recent drop into the blue area on the rainbow chart, which basically signals that Bitcoin is basically on fire sale. The green zone here does represent a very good buying zone for Bitcoin, and the blue line, the blue color, basically means that it's on sale, and the purple means that Bitcoin is dead. But again, if you're buying in these zones, this is the perfect time to be buying, because when you get up into the yellows, oranges, and reds, that is the time to start questioning if Bitcoin is overbought. Is it in a bubble? FOMO intensifies, and then getting up to this red zone is where you really want to be selling because of the fact that Bitcoin is just so overbought. So again, we're in this area for some nice accumulation. We've been here for a couple of months, and if we think about all the stuff that we've just mentioned in the other models and charts and graphs, you've probably got another couple of months at most before we really start see Bitcoin moving up through the colors in the rainbow chart. Finally, the Bitcoin Pi cycle top indicator is another very good indicator for understanding where we are in the macro cycle and how the Bitcoin price action and all-time highs have been gauged very, very accurately by using this Pi cycle top indicator, which basically shows us that when the 111-day moving average crosses the 350-day moving average, we get a peak for Bitcoin. So we can see how accurate this was back here in 2013. We saw the same thing again here if we zoom in with the 111-day average crossing over the 350-day moving average. The exact moment that they crossed pretty much marked that top signal for Bitcoin in the 2017 cycle. And then once again, when we saw that happen here in the 2021 cycle, it actually happened around the April high when we saw Bitcoin putting in that $64,000 level when the 111 crossed the 350-day moving average. We saw it marking a new all-time high for Bitcoin. We did see it drop and come back even higher in November of that year, but still a very good signal for, selling the top before a dip comes in. So again, another indicator worth keeping an eye on as we move through the bull cycle for Bitcoin. But once again, we are back above this $60,000 level. Bitcoin is healthily bouncing off of that resistance that we saw down here at the $49,000 level, and Bitcoin dominance continues to look very healthy to the upside. We may not have an altcoin season until the latter stages of Q4 this year or potentially Q1 next year. That remains to be seen, and we'll be keeping an eye on everything going on. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you want to get notified about similar videos, make sure to smash that bell notification icon. Don't forget to grab your free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin on your way out the door. It's going to be linked in the description below. It is my gift to you. Grab it while it's free. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one.